Hey everyone, so it looks like it's finally time we get to play around some more with our Modified UAZ. So the deal with this is, we got a hold of this a couple of years ago. It showed up for sale, and the guy who had it, well, he didn't really even know what it was, because these are actually very rare here. You don't see them ever. And it was looking really rough, and it was just kind of thrown into another deal of his, so he just wanted to get rid of this. So we were actually able to get this for a pretty good price. And at the time, we were looking to build like a new trail rig, something that would just purely be for off-road fun. So we took this home and started modifying it. And we got it, well, almost done, just in time for COVID to really shut down all of the events that we would have potentially gone to with this. So it was kind of set aside. Well, you can see it's already got some dirt on it, and that's because earlier today we took this out and ran it down here just to see if it would even still run. So, now that COVID is something that just came and went, at least here in the country, nobody's even bothered to talk about it anymore, it's finally time to take this out to someplace other than my backyard. But before we do, there's some things we have to fix on this, and there's some things that need a little bit more modifications. So let's just do a quick walk around, show you some of the things that we've already done and some of the things that need some attention. So, starting out here in the front, we already completely mangled this corner of the front bumper. Now we did that when we were trying to cross the trench down here. I pretty much rammed this corner right into the dirt, and it's been completely buckled up and is actually crushing the fender up here. You can see on the other one here what it should look like, with plenty of clearance in between the bodywork and that bumper. But yeah, this is just all pushed up and crushed. But this was the stock bumper. I did reinforce it in the middle where we have that fairlead, so it's fairly strong in there, but everything from the frame rails and out, that is still the stock bumper, and it's not super strong. I kind of expected this to happen. I wasn't really planning on it, but now that it did, I think I'm just gonna scrap this and make a completely new front bumper. I actually have a pretty good idea for that you will see in a moment. In here we have a nice big Dragon winch. I know the name makes it sound kind of Chinese, but the Dragon winches are actually Polish. We've been running a couple of these, and this particular one has actually been on several different rigs, and we don't really have any trouble with them. They're at a good price, they're nice and strong, and they seem very reliable, so no complaints about that. Add a little shovel up here, because for some reason we're always needing a shovel. This actually does have the original searchlight still on it, but it doesn't have any function on this. So I think I want to take this off and put it on my other one over there, because there's really no reason to have it on this and just smash it up for no good reason. And the other one doesn't have one. We put a battery disconnect up here. These actually do have a battery disconnect originally. It's just underneath this panel, so you can get to it from the driver's side. But we wanted to put something on the outside so that if you're rolled over, you can't get out or whatever, anyone can go up and just shut the vehicle off. That's always a good idea, and it is a requirement in several events. Now, before we go any further, I just have to say this is very much a budget build, so keep that in mind. We didn't have a whole lot of money to throw into this, and it was pretty cheap in the first place, so we kept everything low cost. We've been reusing a lot of parts from other vehicles. I think the most expensive thing on this has actually been the tires, even though they are fairly cheap remold tires. So speaking of tires, these are, like I said, just cheap remold tires, but they are a copy of the Cymex or the Silverstones. I actually think they're kind of the same pattern. And the rims were off a Suzuki Samurai, I think. Yeah, I think it was a Suzuki Samurai, and I made my own beadlock rings for those and welded that all on, and it actually works really well. And a lot of people say that these types of remold tires, they're very stiff, but we're not even running super low pressure on this. I don't remember what it is, like 1.5 bars. But they are already deforming nicely, and they have tons of grip, so I don't really have any complaints with these tires. I actually just noticed that this cover is actually coming off. See, there's a bit of a gap around the edge there, and one nut is missing, and this bolt down here is also missing, so that is another thing that we have to take a look at. See if we can take a look at the suspension in here. We're running Trailmaster shocks all the way around, and those are the stock leaf springs, but they are modified a little. I think I took out one leaf in the front and 2 leaves in the back, and I've been shortening some of them, all just to make them a little more soft. We have a whole lot of flex out of these old leaf springs, so I'm really happy with that. Put some newer style mirrors on this because the original ones are terrible. On the inside, we do have full roll cage in this. Have the controller for the winch set up right there, and we put a couple of bucket seats in here with some nice Sparco harnesses. But other than that, it's really mostly original on the inside. Now, these are not usually pickups. This is not an option. This is something we did just to keep it more open in the back so we could get to the stuff we have back here. This is actually the same top, just like the original one over there. It would have continued back down, but we kind of cut off the sides and cut off all the stuff underneath, and we just folded what used to be the roof back down here and tied that to the bottom. On the rear axle, we put in some stronger axle shafts, and we put a diff lock in there as well. It's an automatic locker, kind of like the Detroit lockers. It works in the same way. And also the transfer case, we put lower gears in that, so it has really nice low range. Actually, when we were out driving it, we started hearing some really strange noises from the rear, but turns out I ran over some kind of fence that I've been wrapping around the axle, so I have a little mess to clean up down there. Back here, some equipment we might need. We have a spare tire, we have our ground anchor. Some people have questioned this, but it's actually really effective. If you don't have anything to hook your winch onto, you just stab this into the ground. It works a little bit better if someone is helping it a little. This will just dig in, and you can winch yourself out with just this anchor. We moved the fuel tank back here just to, well, for safety, because it's actually really low on these. We didn't want to have a rock or something bounce up and puncture it. So we moved it up here. Works really well, no issues with that. Got a couple of ammo cans out here on the sides just to have random recovery gear and such, and of course a fire extinguisher. Gotta have that. Oh, and the rear bumper, well, it didn't actually have one. It just had a couple of stops just like you have on this one. So this is actually just a tie rod from an old Volvo truck with a couple of shackles welded to it, and it's all welded directly to the frame. So that's nice and strong. Put a custom snorkel on here. Again, this is very cheaply made. This is really just a set of, or a piece of drain pipe with an air intake from an old city bus. So in here we have a closed K&N filter, and that's been kind of modified along with the stock air filter box. That's all been welded up and modified to fit with our snorkel. We have just the standard radiator in here, and we have an Optima yellow top battery. Gonna need to make some covers for that so we don't get any shorts if the hood is crushed down onto that. The engine is not the correct engine. We actually did have the original engine in this, but that suddenly ran out of oil pressure, so we yanked the engine out of the old van I have. That one actually had a Volga engine in it. That one has a few more horsepower, so that would be good for this project. So the van is just sitting without an engine at the moment. So I think that was about it for the quick rundown on this. So let's give it a good wash, get it inside, and start fixing some of these things. So I'm kind of confined to my little room here because the Unimog is taking up all my other space. Anyway, I'm just gonna make sure I didn't mess anything up on that rear axle. Then I'll get all the other little things squared away, and then we'll get to building a new front bumper. Right, so that is a lot of these small things taken care of. Now let's get to that bumper because that's what I really want to be working on. And keeping with the low budget theme of this thing, I'm going to be using this. This is a tie rod from a truck. This particular one from a Scania. Thing is, the ball joint in one end is clamped in, so once that gets worn out, you have to replace the whole thing. That means I can just get these for free. Now, of course, I'm going to cut off the actual ball joints, but if I keep this bend that it has right here, the size is pretty much spot on. So I do want to keep this fairly simple, so I'm just going to remove this and then I'm going to weld this directly to the frame rails, because it's very unlikely I'll ever have to take it off again. And then I'll make a new mount for this, or maybe I'll just move this over. We'll figure that out once we have it up on here.
Alright, that's going to be it for now. Of course, there's a lot more we could do to this, and some things we probably should do to this. But at least it looks like we can finally get to take this out and really play around with it. So thanks for watching this one, and we'll see you.